Hey guys, it's Coco and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about how to plan the Interrail trip. I went interrailing last summer and honestly it was the best thing I've ever done, so I wanted to be able to help people do the same. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do when you're planning your Interrail trip is think about when do you want to go. So all you need to do is choose some dates, whether that's in summer because maybe you're at school and so that's like the only time you can really go, or you want to choose a time which is less busy because in summer that's peak time and so everyone ramps up their prices, and so going at a different time of year may actually help you save money. Personally, I went in summer. I literally finished my exams on June 14th and then I left on the 18th and I went for 62 days, I think. I know, very specific. I wanted to be able to go for a long time, so I started from that and planned everything else around that. Next, what you want to do is pick where you want to go. Now, I'm sure if you're anything like me, you'll have a bucket list of places you want to visit. And so obviously I wanted those to come into my route as much as possible. So I actually used this app or website called interrailplanner.com. I will link that down below. Basically, all you need to do is type in where you want to go and it like pinpoints it, and then you can type in the next place you want to go and it will draw a line in between them, kind of like a dot to dot, and it will help you plan your route that way. And you can also choose how long you want to stay in those places. But yeah, once you've finished your whole route, preferably you should have a circle shape so you're not, going from one side of Europe completely to the other side and then back again. That would just be a waste of money and time. So for me, I started in Oslo, then I went to Stockholm, Copenhagen, Berlin, Prague, Budapest, Split, Dubrovnik, Ljubljana, Venice, Rome, Naples, Lyon, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam. Bloody hell. I forget how many places I went, but I did go for 2 months. So if you're looking to do more of a 2-week type of thing, maybe pick around 5 cities and stay 3 nights in each place. So yes, it is quite tiring and very fast paced, but to be honest, I really loved that because I get bored quite easily. Okay, so once you've figured out your dates, how long you want to go for and the route that you're going to take, you'll next want to buy your tickets. Now I had to buy 2 plane tickets. My first one was from London to Oslo in Norway, and then my second one was from Amsterdam to London again. And for that I used Skyscanner. Again, I will link that down below. That's just a website that pulls together every single flight that can take you from where you are to where you want to go, and it will put the cheapest one at the top. However, if you don't want to fly from England, then you can always take the train into the rest of Europe, or you can also get a ferry. Or if you're already in the mainland of Europe, then you can hop straight on a train. But first you have to buy your tickets, and to do that you go onto the Interrail website, again linked down below, and you can go onto the ticket section and it will have a list of every type of ticket that you can get. Personally, I got the global pass. I got the 7 days in 1 month pass, so that meant you could travel on 7 days within a month period. And I got 2 of those, which were consecutive, because you have to enter the dates for which you want them to be. So that's why it's better to plan your route beforehand. By doing that, you can actually set your dates to the date of your first train journey, rather than say if you were booking a flight like me, you wouldn't start your Interrail ticket from the date of your flight because then you'll just be wasting 3 or 4 days. They are quite expensive. Mine were £233 each. If you were to do it without a pass, train reservations can be up to £70 or even more, I think. So the tickets are set out where if you travel on more days within a certain period of time, it's more expensive. So if I were to pick travel on 5 days within a month period, it would have been cheaper. So a way you can actually save money is by using the 7 PM rule. Basically, the rule is if you travel on a train that leaves after 7 PM and arrives before 4 AM, then that counts as 1 travel day, even though you travel on 2 days because it's an overnight train. So by doing that, you not only save your travel days so that you can, go to more destinations, but you also save on accommodation because you will be sleeping on the train rather than in a hostel. So definitely use that rule. So you've chosen your ticket and you've ordered it. Next, what you want to do once the ticket arrives is write in your train times. When you open it, it will have the actual ticket stapled to the top, and on that you want to write the days that you are travelling on. There's a little section that has, you know, day, month, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because I had the 7-day in a month pass. So every single day that you plan on travelling on, you write in there. And then below that, there's a section for you to write in the date, the time, where you're leaving from, and also where you're going to. And then next to it, you just put a little cross in the train box, unless you're going by bus or boat. Now, make sure you do this before you get on the train, because the ticket checkers, conductors, I don't know what they're called, they get very angry if you don't do this. You can actually be kicked off the train if you don't have it filled out before you get on. I did have a couple experiences where I forgot to do it, but overall all of the train conductors were really kind and, you know, gave me a warning. But just to be safe, do it beforehand. It's not that hard. Personally, I didn't actually plan out my train journeys. I actually only booked the first 2 trains, and then I wrote those into my ticket timetable, but the rest of it I actually left blank so that I could fill it in later on and be more flexible with where I wanted to go and what times. However, if you are a planner and you need to have everything set out, that's perfectly fine. You just have to look at all of the train times and write them down before you actually go on your trip. And the way that you can do that is actually on the Interrail website. They have a section on there which is completely dedicated to train times and helping you find the exact train that you want. You can also make reservations for them, which is made very easy on the website. So now that you've bought all of your tickets and booked your trains, the next thing to do is work out your budget. Personally, I thought I was going to be spending about £50 a day. That's including accommodation, travel, food and activities, but it actually ended up being about £35 a day. But it worked out absolutely fine for me. I would go to supermarkets for food, I would walk most places, and if I was going to do an activity, I would find the cheapest way to do it. So overall, including my tickets, I spent about £2,600. It definitely could have been a lot less, but right at the end when I was in Amsterdam, I kind of went on a bit of a shopping spree because I had so much money to spare. I kind of went a bit mad, and I also ended up getting 4 tattoos, which cost €150. So if you're not like me and planning on going a bit crazy at the end, you can definitely factor that out of your budget, and it will definitely end up being a lot less than what I spent. But you know, you have to treat yourself sometimes, and I don't regret it. I had a great time. But budgeting is very important. Okay, so once you've worked out your budget, you'll want to book your accommodation according to that. I set myself the limit of £25 per night. The majority of the time I actually ended up spending around £15 to £20, so that's why I was much more under budget than I thought. So yeah, you can book your accommodation beforehand, but again, that's not what I did. I actually booked my accommodation when I was on the train to a place, which does sound a bit risky because there might not be enough space in the hostel, but I never actually had that problem. So say if I was on the train from Berlin to Prague, I would be booking my accommodation on that train, and then once I got into Prague, I would go to the ticket office and book my train out of Prague. But if you do want to book your accommodation beforehand, I recommend using Hostelworld. It was the only thing that I used because it's so easy and it definitely offers some great hostels. However, you can also use things like Airbnb. However, hostels do offer more of a social element, so you end up meeting so many new people, and that is the best thing I think about traveling. Now for my recommendations and highlights of my trip. Destination wise, my highlight was for sure Ljubljana in Slovenia. That's because Lake Bled is about an hour's drive from there and it is stunning, just so pretty. And you can do activities on it like sailing or kayaking. There's also a gorgeous castle that you can visit. I stayed at a really lovely hostel called Villa Veselova, and this place had a free communal breakfast. So that meant in the morning when you went downstairs for breakfast, you were sitting with everyone else in the hostel. This was honestly the perfect way to make friends, and we actually all ended up going out that night and getting drinks and stuff like that. And we also played something called Flunkyball? I don't actually know what it's called, but this guy called Felix, I think he was German, he introduced us all to this game, which was so much fun, and we ended up playing that in the streets like all night. So yeah, Ljubljana was for sure my favourite place, and I highly recommend that you visit as well and go to Lake Bled. Now on to some highlights that I had within cities. First off, in Rome is this pizza place. I know, typical. It's called Pincere. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it was so good. They had so many different types. I think it was a family-run business. And yeah, it was always quite busy when I went, so clearly it was well loved. Next, in Split, that's in Croatia, there was this certain hotel that had a public pool, which I actually went to every day, I think. It was called Jadran. I don't know how to pronounce this. So I went there every day, I read my book, I went swimming, and I just sunbathed. It was fantastic. Would highly recommend. I was actually recommended that place by a friend who had been there previously, so thank you, Lucy. And then lastly is a park in Prague, that's in the Czech Republic. It was called Havlicek Gardens. It might be Havlicek. It was just a beautiful, beautiful garden to go and read in. I took some picnics there sometimes, and there were always dogs and children running around, just so peaceful. So if you feel like you need a little bit of a rest, definitely go there and chill out. And now for some quick little tips that I think you should do. The first one being very obvious, but take a camera. Just take a camera. I took my film camera. It's a Canon AE1. I think taking a camera, even if it's just your phone, which I also ended up using, it's such an important thing to do because you can capture your memories, and when you look back through all of the pictures, everything just comes flooding back. I would also actually recommend going alone, or at least in a very small group. If you're in a large group, it makes it so much harder to plan things, for example with accommodation. If you're looking for a hostel with 8 people that you need to book for, you're most likely not going to find room. But being in a pair or solo like I was, it was so easy to find somewhere. Not only that, but I didn't have to think about what someone else wanted to do during the day. I could be selfish and do whatever the hell I wanted. Everything was on my terms, which is the way I like it. Oh god. Next, I would say buy all of your food from supermarkets. It's a great way to save money, and for some meals I would cook at the hostel rather than going out every single night and buying an expensive meal. Obviously, I definitely recommend at least having one meal in each city at a restaurant, because that way you get to really experience the culture. But if you're on a budget like I was, supermarkets are the way to go. Next, I would say do a book exchange. So in most hostels, there'll be a section either in the room or in the common room which is full of books, and you can take one of the books and bring it back, or if you're going on a really long train journey, you can take a book and take it to somewhere else. Personally, I brought a book with me to Oslo, so I had a book to give to the exchange. But if you don't have one, I don't think it's that much of a problem. But if you want to be a good person, definitely either bring it back or leave something else. I actually ended up writing my name in each of the books that I exchanged, so you might actually be able to find some of them if you go to the same hostels as I went to. So yeah, that's a little treasure hunt for you. Hopefully other people have written their names in as well. I just think that's quite interesting and fun to see who else has enjoyed the book. Next is to make use of hostel activities, whether that's a free walking tour or a bar crawl, whatever, definitely do them. They are so much fun and usually well priced, and again, such a great way to meet people. And lastly, my biggest recommendation or tip is to make friends. Don't be afraid to speak to someone, because even if you're nervous, they're probably nervous as well, especially if they look like they're traveling alone. It can honestly make your experience 10 times better. So yeah, that's it for my how to plan an interrail trip, and if you are going on a trip, then good luck and I hope you have the best time. If you have any more questions, I would be more than happy to answer them in the comments below. Also, any links that I think may be useful to you will be in the description box. But yeah, I will see you next time. Bye!
Look at your